Right now at 11 o'clock, he is still on the job and remains Nelson County's top cop despite facing serious indictments this week. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the Night Team. I'm Doug Proffitt. The Nelson County Sheriff and his chief deputy are charged with felonies, including abuse of the public trust, official misconduct, and theft by deception. WHAS11 Night Team's Clarice Shaley looks at the process for possible removal and is talking with the newly retired Nelson County Commonwealth's attorney.
Well, it's very surprising.
Kentucky Sheriff's Association's Executive Director Jerry Wagner reacting to the news of Nelson County Sheriff Ramon Pinaroa's felony indictments.
He's been a very important member of what we've done for quite a few years.
Pinaroa, who is also the president of the board of the Sheriff's Association, is facing charges of abuse of public trust, theft by deception, official misconduct, to name a few. Nelson County Chief Deputy Brandon Bryan faces similar charges along with forgery. Both were served criminal summons.
I know that there are some difference of opinions with some people in his office.
It stems from a whistleblower case. A lawsuit filed in early February against Pinaroa alleges Bryan illegally sold cars seized from investigations, and the employees say they faced retaliation by the sheriff after reporting this.
And I just hope that any of the news that's coming out about Nelson County and Bardstown does not reflect badly on either them or the department or the court system.
Terry Gohagan is now retired. He served as Nelson County's Commonwealth attorney for 31 years.
And they've all been very honest and very capable and done a good job.
There have been a lot of questions on when and if Sheriff Pinaroa and Chief Deputy Bryan will be arrested, and with the criminal summons, that does change some things.
Just means that someone is summoned to come to court instead of arrested and come to court. Most of the time, if it's someone who's in a public office and they've been there a while, a summons would be issued instead of an arrest warrant.
Gohagan says criminal summons are also issued when they're served nonviolent charges.
If he's not convicted or it's in a plea deal, that he would leave that post. But other than that, yes, I think the law doesn't remove him.
For the moment, Sheriff Pinaroa remains the top law enforcement official in Nelson County. Pinaroa and Bryan's arraignment is March 20th. In Bardstown, Clarice Shaley, WHAS 11 Night Team, on your side.
According to state law, the Kentucky legislature can force Pinaroa's resignation. The governor would have to approve the sheriff is unfit to serve. The last time a Kentucky sheriff was asked to resign was the Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Steins. Governor Andy Beshear asked him to leave office after he was charged with killing an eastern Kentucky judge right in his chambers just last fall. Here at home, police in the coroner, southern Kentucky, aren't saying much tonight about the cause of death of a teenager from Oldham County. The Oldham County high schooler was found dead down in Taylor County to the south of Louisville. According to the Taylor County coroner, 17-year-old Nathan Hammond was found dead last Friday outside a burned vehicle on Gaddis Ridge Road. Oldham and Taylor counties are roughly 2 hours away from each other. Police have not shared any further details surrounding this death, which remains under investigation. There's an autopsy scheduled for tomorrow to learn more about how the teenager died. A sudden change, of course, from the Trump administration today. ABC News reporting that the White House has pulled today's signing of an executive order meant to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. Sources telling ABC News that behind the scenes, top administration officials were concerned about the blowback they'd see, specifically about how closing the agency would impact crucial resources for students like the school lunch program.
We're talking about Title I funding, which is funding for our most under-resourced schools, our most under-resourced neighborhoods, under-resourced families, and under-resourced students.
Public education is a public good. It's not a business. And so taking away resources and funding is not going to help the department improve the academic outcomes of our students across America.
The Department of Education not only oversees billions of dollars for funding of low-income students and those with disabilities, it also enforces civil rights laws to prevent discrimination in the schools. The department also oversees the process for students applying for college financial aid. Donald Trump has long been a critic of the department.
We're starting the process. We're trying to get the schools back into the states. Let the states run the schools.
Most funding for public schools is already at the state and local level. If the administration eventually goes forward with this order, Congress would have to approve the closure of the agency that it created. And now, right now, all new on the night team, we are looking at the potential impact of Donald Trump's cuts on the city of Louisville and its programs. Since last month, we've been showing you how nonprofits like the Americana Community Center in the South End heavily rely on these funds to pay for operating costs. WHAS 11 Night Team's Jose Alonso is talking with Metro Council members on both sides of the aisle tonight who focus mainly on the city budget.
It's another day for the Louisville Metro Council Budget Committee to hear discussion on where funds are being allocated.
$915,000 of opioid settlement funds.
Watching the presentation closely is Metro Councilman Democrat Andrew Owen of District 9.
We still are losing hundreds of our residents every year.
President Donald Trump is still keeping federal funds frozen. Owen says there's no direct impact on Metro government yet, but the hold on funding will eventually have a trickle-down effect.
We get a lot of funds that flow from federal government to state government to local government, and we're counting on certain funds. We project forward when we do budgets. When you look at organizations, whether it's government, business, institutional, otherwise, they want predictability. The last thing in the world we have coming out of the White House right now is predictability.
I also wanted to hear from a Republican's viewpoint and reached out to former state representative and now Metro Council member of District 22, Kevin Bratcher.
A lot of the money that filters through our systems here in Metro Council are well oversighted. Everybody hopefully knows where every dime and nickel is going, and there's not a whole lot of waste.
Bratcher praises the president's efforts to shake up the federal government to reorganize. Although Metro government isn't seeing an impact, nonprofits like Americana Community Center are facing closure and a financial crisis.
Very successful, very prevalent nonprofits like Americana and others wait till they lose funding and tell me if people are going to be hurting.
We've been following Americana's call to action for donations to keep their doors open since February.
While I support what's going on with illegal immigration, I certainly support legal immigration and certainly support the refugee program.
As funds remain on pause, both council members believe it will be a topic of discussion for their next budget this summer. In Louisville, Jose Alonso, WHAS 11 Night Team, on your side.
By the way, Americana's ongoing SOS campaign is still active as they need to raise $150,000 by the end of this month to keep them from closing. They are not there yet and they need your help. We have a link on where you can donate to Americana on our website at WHAS11.com. President Donald Trump has once again put a hold on new tariffs for some products from Mexico and Canada. The about face coming just 2 days after the tariffs were announced and more than a month after both countries were initially threatened with tariffs. The 1-month exemption will be for products in compliance with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. More than 60% of Canadian products are not compliant with that agreement, while about 50% of products from Mexico are in line. Still, the White House insists tariffs are stopping the flow of fentanyl, and President Trump said he still plans to impose the tariffs starting in April.
There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing. But the United States will be very happy.
Trump's on-again, off-again tariffs threats have roiled financial markets, lowered consumer confidence, and put many businesses in an uncertain atmosphere that could delay hiring and even investment. We learned today that Medicaid spending in Kentucky is the new focus for Kentucky lawmakers in Frankfort as they are moving to create their own version of the Department of Government Efficiency for the Bluegrass State. On the federal level, you know it is DOGE, led by Elon Musk. Republicans believe a Kentucky DOGE will help eliminate fraud and wasteful spending. But some Democrats say the bill is just future cuts to important services in disguise.
Medicaid is the lion. I mean, it's the behemoth. It is eating up our budgets. It's growing astronomically. And so we need to make sure that we protect that program for people who need it.
You know, I just see it as a Trojan horse as it respects to the national framework that they are setting up to cut and do whatever they think they're big enough to do. So it's not something that I can throw my arms around.
The bill has cleared the Kentucky Senate. It now sits in the Kentucky House. Jason Nemus, a state House leader, would not predict whether it'll pass, but he says he does support it, and many of his colleagues do as well. A bell sounding there, chiming in Kentucky's Capitol Rotunda late this afternoon to honor the lives of those lost due to the COVID-19 pandemic that started here in Kentucky 5 years ago today. It was on this day in 2020, Kentucky reported its first case of the virus. Soon afterwards, the entire Commonwealth, nation, and world would shut down in response. Who could forget it? Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear grew emotional today while reflecting on that time.
I believe there are two legacies from this pandemic. One is the incredible, heartbreaking loss that we felt those days. But while we were going through the darkest of times, we saw the brightest of lights. Now, the Bible tells us that there's a light in the darkness, and the darkness never put it out. And we saw lights shining all throughout that period of time, giving us hope and giving us strength.
More than 20,000 Kentuckians died from COVID-19. The NTSB has released its preliminary report into the Northeast Philadelphia Learjet disaster from back on January 31st, that fiery crash killing 7 people, including a child on board. In the report released today, the NTSB said it was able to recover and repair the cockpit voice recorder from the jet, which was buried 8 feet underground due to the huge impact of the crash. However, the NTSB says the recorder did not record the plane's final flight, and it's likely that device had not been recording audio for years. Investigators revealing there were no distress calls received from the flight crew. The jet slamming into the ground at a 22-degree angle, bursting into flames on impact.
It was a very steep angle at which that aircraft came down.
The agency saying the medevac Learjet was in the air for about a minute before the crash. All 6 people on board the plane were killed, as well as a man who was in his car on the ground there at the time of the crash in Philadelphia. 24 others were injured. The report did not say what caused the crash, and those findings likely won't be released until a final investigation is issued.